What is weighing on your mind that you may need advice on? I, 44 years old male, want to read my daughter's, 17 years old female, diary to find out why she left us. My wife, 43 years old female, says we should absolutely not. My, 44 years old male, daughter, 17 years old female, committed suicide 2 months ago. It was honestly a big shock as she's never shown any signs that she wanted to take her life. My wife and I blame ourselves and wishes that we could have done more. She was in therapy for something unrelated. She was very afraid and would panic at the sight of blood, so we thought that her feelings in general would be addressed during her sessions. We were always very supportive of her, asking her about her days or if she's having any troubles about anything when she's noticeably looking down. We only started cleaning out her room a week ago. I was going through her closet and tucked at the very back was a small backpack with her diary in it. I really wanted to read it because my daughter didn't leave anything behind, not a note saying why she did it or anything. So I was hoping that maybe something in her diary would shine light as to why she did what she did. I brought the idea up to my wife and she said absolutely not. Though she's not with us anymore, she still deserves the utmost respect. My son, 14 years old male, also wants to know why his sister left, but doesn't think that reading her diary is the way to go about it. I don't know, I feel like we need closure. My family and her friends need closure. My wife cries herself to sleep every night, repeating that she wishes we could have done something different, and I comfort her. My son obviously misses his sister as they were so close. He misses her so much that sometimes we'd find him asleep by the door of his sister's room in the middle of the night. My daughter didn't have any social media presence, but had a good amount of friends and none of them know why she did it either. This diary is our last shot of giving everyone she knew the answer why. I know diaries are very intimate and the last thing I want to do is disrespect my daughter. If I don't end up reading her diary, how will I find closure? How will my family move past this? Every day is filled with tears and many thoughts of why. Was it my wife and I's fault? We don't know, which is why I want to know. If it was us, I don't want to have us make the same mistakes with our only child left. I don't know exactly what I'm asking for, but anything would be appreciated. Am I the unreasonable one for burning bridges with my in-laws at my husband's funeral? I married Jake when we both were 19. I know in hindsight that was dumb, but it was common in the area. We're from an area with little in the way of opportunities, and while I did well enough to get scholarships and attend college, Jake decided to join the military. We talked extensively about this, and he was vocal in his intention to only join for one term to get the GI Bill and then get out and go to college. When I married him, Jake was a sweet, funny guy who enjoyed cooking and the only things he'd willingly hurt were deer. But after he joined, Jake changed. He got a lot angrier. In general, I'd never known him to have a temper, but he went from never raising his voice to yelling at his family and me when he didn't get his way, to less pleasant behavior when he was drunk. And oh how he drank. I have nothing against a beer with friends now and then, but after joining the military Jake was drinking constantly. His sense of humor got a lot cruder, too. Dirty little sheetheads became his favorite punchline. The final straw was when we discussed his plans to get out and go to college since he was looking at whether to stay in or get out. He wanted to stay in. I reminded him he'd promised to get out. He'd been drinking, and things got ugly. The wives' club at the base was no help, so I started quietly looking into how to divorce Jake. Then, earlier this year, he died in a car accident. My only feeling was, honestly, relief. I went to his funeral and didn't say anything at the service. But at dinner Jake's little sister approached me and said she'd started dating a soldier and wanted to know if I had any advice. My advice? Don't. The military ruined Jake and turned the man I loved into a drunk, abusive a-hole. Jake's family predictably erupted in a firestorm. But more alarmingly to me, my own parents have taken their side. Am I the unreasonable one? My girlfriend Ann and I have been dating the past 5 years, since college. After graduation, we were semi-long distance, living close enough that we alternately visited almost every weekend. In 2018, Ann got a job in my city, and we found a place and moved in together. Now's a good time to mention the security cameras in our house. Break-ins are unfortunately common where we live. We thus got some motion-activated cameras, one of which has a view of our kitchen, to monitor the back door. The cameras only record when there's motion so they can retain footage for a very long time. Ann of course knows this. About a year ago, and started complaining I wasn't contributing equally to chores. I've been obsessive about chores my whole life. Growing up, not doing the dishes meant no video games for a week. When I lived with roommates, I was always the chore Nazi, making damn sure we all stuck to our chore wheel. Ann is just as fastidious about chores, so we just naturally alternated who did what. I'd just been brushing her remarks off, but over the last few months they've become much more aggressive. E.g., I was vacuuming and Ann said, "Look at you finally cleaning up around here." I replied that we alternated vacuuming, to which she retorted, "No, you've vacuumed maybe twice since I moved in." Exchanges like this have been happening so frequently that I began to doubt my own recollection. Am I not as clean as I thought? Finally, she exploded at me last week. She said that having to stay home constantly over the past weeks exposed how little I do around the house, and that she didn't move in just to be my maid. Questioning my own sanity, I spent a few hours going through the entire 1.5-year archive of the security camera footage, and tallied the exact number of times the kitchen cam caught each of us doing dishes. Our cleaning supplies, vacuum/mop/etc., are in the kitchen pantry, so I also tallied up how many times we grabbed cleaning stuff. To my vindication, the tally showed that we indeed split chores equally. She vacuumed/mopped -5 more times than I did. I did dishes -20 more times than she did. Given that we vacuum/mop at least once a week and do dishes at least every day, these are insignificant differences over the year and a half we've lived together. When I confronted Ann, she shrugged off her behavior as remembering things differently, but the real sin here was what I did, which she called an unforgivable violation of her privacy, akin to abusive stalking. She has broken up with me and is trying to move out, although obviously this is difficult due to current circumstances. I'm totally heartbroken. Ann was the love of my life and I can't believe she destroyed our relationship like this. To make matters worse, she told many of our friends, who were mostly siding with her. They've been texting me that what I did was creepy, abusive, controlling, invasive, etc. I'm at a loss. I'm beginning to think I'm the one who's off base here. I don't want to take part in my GF's 23 years old female sex ritual on our wedding night, but I still want to marry her. I'd like some advice. So I'm 23 years old male, getting married to my GF, 23 years old female, early next year if all goes to plan. I don't have a lot of family. I'm no contact with my dad for several years now. She, however, has a huge extended family. For the most part we get on great. They tend to be very loud and have huge personalities, which is sometimes hard for me to deal with since I've always been on the quiet side, but overall very warm and caring people. Something weird I've noticed since we got engaged is that my GF's cousins sometimes make jokes about our wedding night. It's weird for them to joke about it since I'm pretty sure her family is aware we've slept together before since we share a bed at holiday gatherings and vacations. A few nights ago we were discussing wedding plans and thinking about places to go on our honeymoon. If the pandemic clears up and we can travel by then. My GF and I were brainstorming ideas when she tells me that we won't need a bridal suite right away. Obviously I ask why. We're getting married at a pretty nice hotel, and she says that she'd like for us to stay at her parents' house. I don't really mind this. We're trying to save money for a house deposit anyway, but GF seems like she has more to say, so I push for why she wants it. She tells me that there's a really old tradition in her family on the wedding night. The husband and wife go into the master bedroom together and they are supposed to consummate the marriage. The rest of the family are waiting outside the door so they can applaud them and cheer when they come out. Then a piece of the bed sheet is cut off and sewn into a big tapestry my GF's mother owns. I think my GF saw I wasn't happy because she quickly told me that we wouldn't have to actually consummate the marriage if I felt uncomfortable and we could just pretend. I don't want anything to do with this. I absolutely freaked and told her under no circumstances will I be doing that kind of thing in front of her whole family. When I came back from taking a walk to clear my head, she was now noticeably acting down and still is. I think she's also been texting her family about this because I received a text from her mother telling me that I don't understand the importance of family and tradition yet, and this kind of tradition has been around longer than I've been alive. I don't know how I'm meant to go on from here. I really love my GF and she is the woman I want to spend my life with. I'm freaked out of course, but she is my whole world. But how should I handle her family and navigate his tradition? TLDR, my girlfriend's family have a tradition where they stand outside the room on the wedding night. I still want to marry my GF, but I don't want anything to do with this. Advice? Am I the unreasonable one for not forgiving my little sister for outing me 6 years ago? I, 22M, was raised in a highly religious household. I knew I was gay when I was 12, and it was the most terrifying realization of my life. I knew, with absolute certainty, that every single person of importance in my life would hate me if they found out. When I was 16, I entered an online relationship with a boy I met through Tumblr. We never met in real life, but he was one of the first people I spoke to honestly about my sexuality. One day, my little sister, then 13F, now 19F, asked me if she could borrow my computer. I got my computer when I started high school, so she didn't have one of her own yet. I was usually very anal about clearing my internet history, but I didn't think my sister was gonna do much other than poke around YouTube, so I just let her have it. Unfortunately, my email was open, and she noticed that I'd received a notification about a message my BF had sent me on Tumblr. She read it. She immediately told me that she had to tell mom and dad that their son was a sinner. I begged and begged and begged her not to, literally on my knees, crying. But she insisted that mom and dad deserved to know, so she went downstairs and told them. Long story short, I spent the next year in a conversion therapy program before finally having a huge blowout with my father and getting kicked out of the house. I haven't spoken to my parents since. I spent almost a year homeless, though I am, luckily, doing much better now. 3 months ago, I got a Facebook message from my little sister. She told me that she's thought a lot about what she did all those years ago, and that she hopes for us to reconnect. At first, I had a lot of difficulty responding to her message, but after some encouragement from a few friends of mine, I finally got back to her. I asked her what she was up to, and what she meant by thinking about what she'd done. She responded by saying that she just started her sophomore year of college, and that she was doing really well, but that going to college had given her a new perspective on LGBT issues, which was why she'd finally questioned whether she was right to tell our parents about me. She said she was sorry, and that she hoped I could forgive her. I don't think I can, though. For one thing, she's just now realizing she was wrong after she literally watched me get abused for a year then kicked out. Plus, I just can't reconcile the fact that she's still close with our parents, who are sending her to a great school and giving her such a wonderful life. It's just not fair. I told her I don't think we can have a relationship. She responded that she hopes I change my mind. My friends say that I'm being petty, that she was just a child when she outed me, that I should give her the opportunity to make amends, and that I'm taking out my anger at our parents on her. But I think I have a right to set the boundaries that I need. Am I the unreasonable one? Am I the unreasonable one for singling someone out at a comedy show? I do stand up. I also have a day job, because, survival. I mentioned at work that I couldn't do any shifts after 4 o'clock on Saturday because I had a show. My coworker overheard and asked for tickets so he could take a girl out without having to spend money. I had no problem helping him out, and I knew this club wouldn't care if I slid a couple people in. But I've been trying to get more bookings at this place and it's kind of a level up from the sort of places I usually get to perform at, so I told them, please make a point to laugh. I'm up there doing my show and I see them and they're the only ones in the relatively intimate audience who aren't laughing. It bugs me a little, but I didn't want to lose my rhythm so I just ignored them. Then I see that in this dark room that seats, max, 40 people, this guy is texting with his phone screen on full brightness. So I start telling a joke about a time I gave friends from work tickets to see me. And they texted through the whole thing, and as I'm doing it I'm slowly approaching their table, and the audience realizes I'm talking about these people at this show, yet he doesn't notice or look up until I'm literally off the stage, approaching the foot of his table, staring at him. It killed, so that was the good part, but when I showed up to work I was expecting an apology from him. Instead he was expecting an apology from me for, I'm quoting here, inviting him out just to make him the butt of a joke, making him look like a fool in front of his girl and embarrassing him at a popular venue in our reasonably small town. He basically summarized it as, you're supposed to be a professional and if you couldn't handle me texting you shouldn't be in show business. I think, without question, that he's the a-hole, but he doesn't believe me and the only people I could tell this story to and ask to confirm I'm not crazy and my real life friends, so, biased. Who's the a-hole? Would I be the unreasonable one if I stopped cooking for my girlfriend? I've been with my girlfriend for 4 years, living together for 2. Off the start of the relationship I knew she was a picky eater. We would go to fancy restaurants and she would order the simplest things or the same things over and over. It seemed weird to me, but I didn't really care. She can do whatever she wants. I only really realized how annoying this is when we moved in together. Now on the other part I'm the opposite. I like to try new foods, new tastes and get a better idea of food in general. I also love cooking and have a culinary arts degree. I wanted to become a chef, but I didn't for other reasons. So you can assume that I do almost all the cooking at home. You can see where this is going. Only when I started cooking for did I realize how picky of an eater she is. She hates almost everything, even if she can't really taste it in the end product. To give you some examples, she hates cinnamon, she hates garlic, she hates any kind of spice, clove, nutmeg, etc. Yesterday I was making a Spanish omelet and she complained when I added the tiniest pinch of thyme in there. Because of all the ingredients I put in there, she is gonna taste the pinch of thyme. I made a white chocolate mousse and she complained when I layered it with Oreos and strawberries, because she apparently doesn't like Oreos. No amount of zest can go into our food, whether that be orange or lemon zest, because it apparently tastes bitter. She hates spicy food. She only eats steaks or whatever well done. If there's the tiniest amount of pink in there, it's raw. I've destroyed so many good steaks in the past cooking them well done. I could go on about things she doesn't like, but we'd be here all day. Last night she asked me to cook dinner, but I refused. When she asked why, I explained that it's frustrating to cook for a person with the taste buds of a 5-year-old, and that she can order takeout from now on. So would I be the unreasonable one if I stopped cooking for her? Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.